They told you that being alone is dangerous. They said solitude is a weakness, that anyone who chooses to be alone must be broken inside. But they never told us the truth. They never told us that solitude is strength, that silence is a sacred space where you finally meet yourself. Being alone isn't the same as being lonely. True loneliness is being surrounded by everyone and still not finding yourself. In this video, we're going to uncover the real difference between loneliness and solitude, and why the moment you're truly alone might just be the moment your real life begins. Most people mistake noise for connection. They think being surrounded means being seen. But how many times have you felt like a ghost in a crowded room? How often have you been in a relationship and still felt invisible? Loneliness isn't about physical distance, it's about emotional disconnection from yourself. Solitude, on the other hand, is where you return to your core. It's where the noise finally fades and your voice becomes audible again. At first, it feels unfamiliar. You might squirm in the silence, feel awkward in your own presence. That's okay. That's growth knocking. We're not taught how to be with ourselves. We're taught how to impress, entertain, conform. We fill every moment with distraction as if stillness is something to be afraid of. But when you stop running and start sitting with yourself, the transformation begins. When you stop fearing alone time, something powerful happens. You stop expecting others to fill you up. You become the source, the anchor, the flame. You're no longer chasing relationships to feel worthy. You already know you are. You're not craving attention to feel visible. You've seen yourself fully, clearly, beautifully. You can read every book, attend every talk, listen to 100 voices. But until you learn to sit with your own in silence without needing to escape, the real work hasn't started. That's the test. And that's where happiness is born. Start tiny. Sit in silence for 5 minutes. Go out alone. No phone, no noise. Walk without music. Let your mind wander without interruption. And yes, it'll feel strange at first, unfamiliar, but over time, you'll start noticing things. How you think, what you like, where your patterns live. You'll stop performing for the world and start showing up as yourself, the unfiltered, unpolished, real version. The one that doesn't need applause to feel worthy. Solitude teaches emotional independence. And that's the foundation. When you build that, no one can take it from you. You could be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone if you've never learned to connect with yourself. But when you do, when you truly know yourself, that's unshakable. That's when love becomes a choice, not a need. That's when silence becomes sacred, not scary. It means you no longer crave shallow attention or temporary validation. You're not waiting for someone to tell you you're enough. You've already decided that you are. Because self-worth isn't something you find in someone else's eyes. It's something you build with your own hands, brick by brick, promise by promise. People spend years trying to earn approval from parents, partners, society. You shape yourself to fit molds. You learn to smile on cue, suppress discomfort, and act like everything's okay. But underneath that polished surface is a version of you begging to breathe. When the noise stops, when the world goes quiet, that's when truth walks in. And if you don't enjoy being with yourself, really enjoy it, every other part of your life will struggle. Because here's the secret. Other people can only meet you as deeply as you've met yourself. If you constantly criticize yourself, compare yourself, doubt yourself, how can confidence grow? If your inner voice is your harshest enemy, you'll never feel safe in your own skin. But the moment you shift, the moment you begin speaking to yourself with kindness, showing up with compassion, honoring your effort, that's when your life changes. You stop chasing people who don't see your value. You stop tolerating situations that drain you. You begin to raise your standards not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. You finally understand, I matter. And I don't need anyone to agree for that to be true. Stop waiting for applause. Stop waiting for someone to notice your effort. You notice it. You honor it. You validate it. That's where true self-respect begins, not in the spotlight, but in the quiet, private moments when no one's watching and you still choose to show up. Being alone isn't a punishment. It's an invitation, a sacred space where you finally ask, what do I really need? What do I truly want? Who am I when no one's around to influence the answer? That's not weakness. That's power. Most people live for other people's opinions. From the time we're kids, we're trained to seek praise, to obey, perform, smile when told. We grow up measuring our worth by reactions. Did they like me? Did I say the right thing? Was I enough? That's not self-awareness. That's emotional dependence. And here's the truth: if your happiness depends on being liked, you'll always feel like you're failing. Because you're chasing a moving target, one that never really satisfies. Freedom begins the moment you stop outsourcing your self-worth. Start by changing the script. Instead of asking, do they like me? Ask, do I respect me? Speak to yourself like someone you love. Celebrate small wins, even if no one else sees. Notice the effort you put in the days you got back up, the moments you stayed kind, the boundaries you honored. Self-validation isn't arrogance. It's not pretending you're perfect. It's acknowledging your humanity, your growth, your grit, and your resilience. You've been trained in self-doubt. Now it's time to train in self-respect. The moment you stop needing others to define you, everything changes. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop shrinking to fit. You stop apologizing for wanting what you want. You start showing up as you, fully, boldly, quietly confident, not because you're faking strength, but because you finally found it inside yourself. You're not pretending anymore. You're not performing. You're just being. And that kind of authenticity is magnetic. This isn't about cutting off people or ignoring advice. It's about no longer depending on others to feel okay. You still care, but you stop needing their approval to feel whole. That's emotional independence. That's what being truly happy alone looks like. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real. You're allowed to be proud of your growth. You're allowed to say, I matter, even if no one claps. That's where peace lives. That's where confidence is born, not in noise, but in knowing. Most people never meet themselves. They get lost in roles: student, parent, employee, and forget there's a human beneath it all. When the world finally goes quiet, when the distractions disappear, you hear the silence, and it feels uncomfortable. But that silence, that's your doorway. The doorway to rediscovery, to healing, to growth. And if you're brave enough to sit with it, truly sit, you'll learn more about yourself than any job or relationship ever could teach you. Self-discovery doesn't happen by accident. It's not something you stumble upon during a walk. It's something you carve out with intention, with courage, with presence. It starts when you stop running from your thoughts and start listening to them. When you ask yourself, why did I react like that? What makes me feel alive? What am I afraid to admit? That's how you peel back the layers. That's how you meet the real you, the version buried under years of expectations and noise. One of the most powerful things you can do in solitude? Journal. Not for perfection, not for performance, just for truth. Write what hurts. Write what you want. Ask yourself the questions you've been avoiding. What am I scared to lose? What dream have I silenced to keep others comfortable? What part of me have I abandoned just to be accepted? This kind of writing isn't pretty, but it's honest. And honesty is the birthplace of healing. We've been taught to numb instead of feel. We binge watch, scroll endlessly, overwork, overeat anything to silence what's rising from within. But emotions aren't enemies, they're messengers. Loneliness may be asking you to reconnect. Anger may be revealing a violated boundary. Sadness might be reminding you what truly matters. When you stop running and start feeling, you don't break, you heal. In solitude, you discover your values, not the ones society handed you, not the ones your parents drilled into your head, but the ones that speak to your soul: freedom, integrity, creation, peace, service. When you discover those values, you stop living on autopilot. You start choosing your life, not reacting to it. That's when fulfillment becomes possible, not because everything is perfect, but because everything finally feels real. This isn't a one-week journey. You don't sit alone one evening and wake up transformed. This takes time. This takes repetition. This takes discomfort. But the longer you lean into it, the clearer life becomes. You stop fearing silence. You stop craving distractions. You actually start yearning for those quiet moments, because that's where the answers live. Solitude becomes your sanctuary. Not your escape, but your home. When you stop fearing alone time and start using it, you become whole. Not halfway, not waiting to be completed, whole. You stop defining yourself by what others think. You start defining yourself on your own terms, in your own voice. And the more you know who you are, the more powerful your life becomes. You stop settling. You start leading. You don't need noise to feel important. You don't need company to feel worthy. You've built a bond with yourself that no one can take away. People underestimate the power of routine, but when you're alone, structure is not just helpful, it's vital. Without it, your mind becomes chaotic. It starts spiraling into doubt, distraction, and self-criticism. You wake up lost, go to sleep discouraged, and wonder why nothing feels meaningful. But when you create even the simplest routine, waking up at the same time, making your bed, moving your body, feeding your soul, you send a message to your brain: I matter. My time matters. That's not productivity. That's self-respect. You don't need to climb a mountain. Start small. Drink water instead of soda. Clean one drawer. Step outside for a walk without your phone. Finish one task. These aren't meaningless acts, they're victories, and they stack. They build momentum. They remind you that you are capable, and that's how confidence is built, not from hype, but from habit. Consistency, not motivation, is the fuel of transformation. When life feels chaotic, and it will, your routine is your anchor. It's your reminder that even when everything feels uncertain, you still have something to hold on to. Something solid, something chosen. Structure helps regulate your emotions. It calms your nervous system. It gives your mind a rhythm. And that rhythm becomes the beat of your growth. This isn't about perfection, it's about presence. You're not being rigid when you create structure. You're being intentional. You're showing yourself that even if the world goes quiet, you still count. That even when no one's watching, you are worth taking care of. And when you learn how to care for yourself consistently, emotionally, mentally, physically, you stop needing someone else to come rescue you. You become your own safety net. You become your own power source. Being happy alone isn't about constant distraction. It's not about numbing the silence. It's about using solitude as a space to build the life you actually want, a life that reflects your values, not the expectations of others. Routine is the tool. Discipline is the bridge. And every time you show up for yourself, you're telling your future, I'm ready. I'm building something. You become the creator, not the observer, the driver, not the passenger. Most people confuse loneliness and solitude. Loneliness feels like absence, like something vital is missing. It feels hollow. It hurts. But solitude is chosen. It's powerful. It's the decision to be with yourself, not because no one else is around, but because you know your presence is valuable. The shift from loneliness to solitude is not easy. It takes practice. But it starts with changing your narrative. Don't say, I'm just alone. Say, I'm with myself. Don't say, no one cares. Say, I'm learning to care for me. Words matter. Your story matters. The way you talk to yourself becomes the way you feel about yourself. So speak in ways that empower, not diminish, and start questioning the lies your mind repeats. Everyone else is doing better. I'm the only one who feels this way. I must not be enough. These are fear-based stories, not truth. Solitude isn't scrolling your phone in silence. It's sipping your coffee while watching the sunrise. It's playing music while you cook dinner just for yourself. It's lighting a candle while reading a book. It's dressing up for no one but you. These moments aren't pointless. They're rituals. And rituals are how you tell your nervous system, I'm safe, I'm cared for, I matter. You begin to associate alone time not with lack, but with richness, beauty, and depth. Sometimes the silence brings pain to the surface, grief you've buried, hurt you've ignored, emotions you've numbed. But when you feel them without judgment, something incredible happens. You heal. You learn to self-soothe. You learn that joy doesn't need an audience. You learn that your emotions don't define your worth, they inform it. You become emotionally independent, and that's the foundation of real strength. You stop settling for halfway love. You stop begging for attention. You stop clinging to relationships that leave you feeling hollow. You start choosing people who align with your values. People who add, not drain. You're not desperate anymore. You're intentional. And in that shift, love becomes deeper, friendship becomes richer, community becomes home, because now you're not asking someone to complete you, you're already whole. This journey was never about becoming perfect. It was always about becoming real, to stop hiding, to stop shrinking yourself just to fit in, to stop pretending you're okay. While a silent voice inside you screams for truth, and then in a moment of courage, you meet yourself. You love that version. You see it clearly, without masks, without filters. And in that meeting, a quiet, unshakable confidence rises, one that needs no proof, no permission. You walk into rooms without apologizing for your existence. You speak without rehearsing your worth. You love without fear. Because you finally arrived. You've come home to yourself, and here's the whole truth. Everything you've been chasing, happiness, confidence, or clarity, love, it was never out there. It was in you, always in you. And what stands between you and that truth is nothing but a moment of honesty with yourself, a moment of brave silence, where you finally sit down and listen. Solitude is not a void in your life. It's the foundation of your freedom. Embrace your aloneness. Turn it into your strength and give yourself permission to become unstoppable. The end? Number, this is just the beginning of the real you.